Hey all, welcome to the second edition of Just an Observation. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to touch on a topic. I just happened to, check in on Loki's Morning's Mischief, and well, he inspired me. So with that said, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, this is an absolutely just an observation brought to you by #BlameLoki. I can use that hashtag. Ha! All right. So Loki yesterday had a nice little conversation about YouTubers and people ranting and raving that they have the inside scoop and they have the door, the foot in the door, and then they know that this rumor is 100% accurate. Well, I find this funny. And the reason I find it funny is because for all of the flack that us wrestling fans get, don't you know it's fake? Ha, ha, ha. And, all the little ribs and jokes and laughing and, finger pointing that we get. I find it hilarious that every fandom that I belong to is trying to be the wrestling fandom. Let me explain that for a second. And remember, this is just my thoughts and just an observation, so disagree with me at will. I don't care. So here's the thing. So for many, 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 many years, long before it ever hit the Star Wars and Star Trek, and this is the inside scoop. Yes, it was there, but it wasn't there as heavy. But where it was in wrestling. As a matter of fact, there is a gentleman who has made a mint doing just that in wrestling. Even some wrestling fans know who this guy is. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer has been doing this for years, right? The difference is a lot of wrestling fans, especially seasoned wrestling fans, the newer ones, they're still on the bandwagon, but a lot of us seasoned fans, there are words, key words, key phrases that will make us turn off, just tune it out immediately. The second you utter these words, we're tuned out. The second you utter them. My inside source is one of them. Because for the love of God, we have heard our inside sources tell us that WWE is going to be sold next year for the last 10 years or so. It hasn't been sold yet. Just saying. It might one day, but it hasn't happened yet. And it is a weird phenomenon because I used to be able to go into other fandoms, my other fandoms, and get away from all of the drama and the BS that is in the wrestling fandom. The wrestling fandom is so toxic right now. It is absolutely absurd. And unfortunately, all the other ones are following suit. I don't know why. I don't understand why you make fun of wrestling fans, you make fun of wrestling fandoms, and yet you're turning your fandoms into the wrestling fandom. I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, sure, people like Dave Meltzer have made money on wrestling rumors since the 80s. But seriously, folks, a person who's been in the wrestling fandom, like I said, there are a few phrases that we immediately go, check out. And like I said, one of them is my inside source. Because there are about 100 YouTube channels right now on any given day that will have insiders say blah, blah. Insiders say blah, blah. In regards to AEW, WWE, New Japan, whatever. The inside source is typically Dave Meltzer, or Ross Sapp, or one of the other many wrestling gurus that now get called, as odd as this is, we live in a day and an age when Dave Meltzer is considered wrestling reporter. Not wrestling rumor monger. No, wrestling reporter. Da fuck. Anyway, that's another rant for another day. But listening to Loki and listening to the fandoms for the last little while, Star Trek, Star Wars, take your pick, Marvel, DC, I moved away from the wrestling fandom to get away from that shite. Literally, I moved away. I still watch Raw and SmackDown. I still watch the pay-per-views. But I pay so little attention to the news. So little attention. Wrestling Twitter is an absolute toxic cesspool. And I'm looking around and I'm going, why are we Star Trek fans trying to mimic that? Why are our Star Wars fans trying to mimic that? If you want to see where this ends up, I got news for you. Take a look at the wrestling fandom. You'll see your future real quick. And it sucks. Speaking from a wrestling fan, I mean, for the love of God, I have SmackDown right there. Okay? The wrestling title of my choice is in my logo. The Canadian Hitman is a steal from Bret Hart. Wrestling fan. And I laugh and almost cry for the rest of the fandoms because I see where they're headed. And somebody might come up to me and go, well, you know, they were doing the same thing in Star Trek in the 70s. Not as prevalent. Right? When you said dirt sheets, you automatically thought wrestling. Not Star Trek, not Star Wars, not Marvel, not DC. Dirt sheets were strictly a wrestling thing. For the most part. You'd get your odd thing here and there. But for the most part, dirt sheets, that was wrestling. We owned that shit. I don't understand the fascination with other fandoms wanting to be the wrestling fandom. Have you looked at it lately? It's a cesspool. Absolute cesspool. And it's a joke. I just don't get it. And the other thing, too, us wrestling fans, we had to learn a long time ago. Sometimes these leaks, they're not done sneakily, okay? And you know what? It's not always on the person reporting it either, because I'll tell you this right now, Dave Meltzer has been fed a whole load of bullshit from WWE just so he'd report it. And you know why they wanted him to report it? So that they'd get free solicitation. Let's float this idea out there. Let's see the reaction. If it's a reaction we like, we'll roll with it. If it's a reaction we don't like, doesn't happen, the person who reported it looks like a fool. Win-win for them. Win-win for them. Right? These news stories don't just happen. You get the odd one that's the genuine article. Somebody overheard something at a water cooler that they weren't supposed to hear, and it gets out, and oh my goodness, the roof's blown off. But I would be willing to bet 7 times out of 10, they know damn well whether it's Disney, whether it's Paramount, whether it's WWE, whether it's AEW, whether it, name the company, name the fandom. The card holder knows what's being leaked and when. And you know what? The person leaking it probably doesn't even know that this is the plan. Because WWE has done it for years. It didn't take them long to figure out generation after generation who was talking to Meltzer. Didn't take them long. They usually figured it out sooner or later. So all they needed to do was make sure that that guy was within earshot when they said something. And they were guaranteed he was going to go run it off to Meltzer. And he would. Or she would. And then it would be printed in the Observer and the wrestling fans would freak out. Or they would be going, oh, thank God. And then if it doesn't happen, Meltzer looks like an idiot. Not WWE, Meltzer. And that's the part that I wanted to point out. Because I listened to Loki. And I was like, yeah, there's no credibility. He's right. But here's the real truth, the underlying truth. The underlying truth is it falls at your foot. Whoever opened their mouth. Whoever said this rumor is true. I have an inside source. They picked up the bill. They picked up the check. If that check bounces, the name on the check is theirs. Not the company's. Not Disney's. Not Paramount. They don't suffer from it. And they have plausible deniability. We never had that plan. We were never going to go in that direction. Prove them otherwise. Prove them otherwise. Right? Because it was leaked, so it wasn't an official source. It was a leak. Leaks happen. And sometimes they're done on purpose. Now, I'm not a big YouTuber. I don't have 1 million people. I don't even have 1,000 people. But seriously, be careful what you say is fact. You could say it's reported. You know, I did security for 13 years. Not once in my report was I allowed. Now, just think about this for a second. Not once in my reports was I allowed to say something definite. Even if I stood there and I watched a car hit a pole and the guy get out and stagger and fall in the dirt, I was not allowed to say drunk driver hit pole. Okay? I could be in serious shit if I put drunk driver hits pole in my report. I had to put male appeared to be under the influence. I could not say he was. I had to say appeared. If I said appeared, that was a beautiful word back in security. Appeared. It was a beautiful word because it got me out of jail free. I could state the person appeared to be drunk off their face. And I couldn't face legal ramifications. But if I said the man was drunk off his face and he wasn't, well, that comes back on me. So if you want to get in that grind and, you know, muddy up your hands and go, look, do what the pros do. Do what the security professionals do. Never make it a definite. It appears that this is going to happen. From everything I've heard, this is going to happen, but it might not. But it appears it will. Then if it goes tits up, you said it appeared that way. Shit. Worst thing you can do is deal indefinites. Because once you jump that shark, you're fucked. Because you'll be right 7 out of 10 times. Hell, you might even get lucky and be right 9 out of 10 times. But you won't be right 10 out of 10. Because there will always be a false leak. Always. False rumor. I mean, for the love of God, they had it set. The new rumor, Vince McMahon is coming back. If he does, they'll be right. If he doesn't, they'll be wrong. WWE wears none of the egg. But leave wrestling fandom to be wrestling fandom. Let it fix itself first before you try to emulate it, please. Because trust me, you do not, absolutely do not, want to be the next wrestling fandom. Because where that fandom is right now, if you think your fandoms are bad now, just wait. It will be worse.